Hey, it's Clayton here from howtodrawcomics.net and bartonbrostudios.com, and in this tutorial you're going to be learning about how to draw the human mouth from the front and side views. Now this lesson is actually part of a larger class that you can access on howtodrawcomics.net and Skillshare via the links in the description below. It's going to cover not only the standard points of view for the mouth but also those trickier dynamic angles. Alright, well without further ado, let's jump straight into this. You could define a mouth with just a line. So I'm going to get my blue pen out here. Let's draw them out. We'll draw the mouth from the front, and we'll draw it from the side in a 3/4 view, the standard views to begin with. Let's just draw a mouth opening. I always start with the mouth opening first, and we can define that as a line. And the really cool thing is that you can define a sad mouth like this, or a happy mouth. I know that seems really oversimplified, but I'm telling you, it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And let me show you why. Because I'm going to turn these all into finished mouths that we're looking at from the front. I'll get my black pen out here. And check this out. What I'll do when it comes to laying in a mouth, when it comes to drawing it out, the final version of it, is I start with the middle, which is basically a little downward triangle, an arrow, and then I'll draw out a line from there, from the middle point, that runs out to the sides, on either side of the mouth, and into the corners. And I usually break that line, so if I was drawing the mouth opening up here, this is what it would look like. Now, the darkest points are going to be in the middle and at the sides. We'll draw that out. And then, once I've got the mouth opening in, it's just a matter of placing in the lips. I'll place in the top lip. On a female character, of course, the lips are going to be fuller, plumper, juicier looking than on a male, and also more defined as well. Again, they've got more contrast usually. And you can get lips of varying thicknesses and shapes as well. It also comes down to style, the way in which you like to draw men or women. If you take, for example, Michael Turner, he draws very big, plump, thick-looking lips. And then I'll lay in a fairly defined, dark-looking line for the bottom lip. And I'll even indicate the underside plane of the bottom of the mouth muzzle. And then I'll lay in the sides of the lips, the bottom of the lips. And you'll notice that they're not a defined line, okay? So I'm not drawing this. I'm not drawing this single line all the way around. I mean, that would work, but it wouldn't look as good. And then we could do the same thing for these other mouth examples. Okay, so this one's going to be a slightly sadder mouth. So you can really go ahead and create an expression for the mouth with a single line if you want to. And you can do it quite easily and quite simply. Add in a little dip for the top lip. And then indicate, in other words, not fully define, but just indicate visually the outline of the top lip. For the bottom lip, well, oftentimes what you'll find is that the chin muscle pulls the lip up when the mouth is looking a little sad. Get something that looks like this. If you want to take it to the next level, you can. You can start shading the lips I don't really shade the lips of male characters, but if I want to show that this female character, for example, is wearing lipstick, and what I'll do, I'll go ahead and start laying in some rendering. This is quite sketchy. You know, for comic book art, oftentimes you don't even need to lay in any rendering. This is only if you're doing like really ultra detailed stuff. What's cool about showing you how I would shade the lips here is you get a good idea for the forms. Again, add in a little bit of a reflection if you want to give the lips a nice shiny look. And don't worry, we'll go over some more male looking lips in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and do a smiling mouth now. Now you'll notice that as the mouth stretches and becomes wider to create the smile, well, so does the shape of the mouth opening. It starts to flatten out a little bit, you'll notice. So that dip in the middle isn't as accentuated. And the same goes for the outline of the lips as well. It's going to be stretched out, flattened out, and less compressed than when the mouth is rested. Okay, but the shape is still there. The shape is just being pulled. It's just being narrowed a little bit. Okay, so now we've got another interesting expression for the mouth we can take a look at here. Remember, we got the middle little bit, we got the corners of the mouth, and then we got the bits that join them together in between. So this is a bit more of a smirk that we're looking at. Just to give you an idea of the anatomy, I guess, that we're dealing with. In other words, the pockets of fat within the lip. You got this little bit here in the front. Looks a bit like a love heart. And you've got these bits toward the ends of the lips. Again, little pockets of fat. And then you've got the joining areas. On the bottom lip, you've got these two giant pockets of fat. Again, I'm just trying to show you the forms here that are going on within the lips. Then, of course, you got the little dip up above your lips that you'll also probably want to consider. You've got the underside plane of the mouth. And the mouth muzzle, of course. Let's go ahead and just do a few more mouths drawn from the front. I'm going to draw some different mouth expressions. Okay, so we've got a bit more of a smile here as the sides, the corners of the mouth are pulled outwards. And you might get a look at the teeth. which, you never want to define like this. That's going to look scary. Usually just define teeth as some very simple, basic lines. Nothing too crazy. Next up, I'll draw some man-looking lips. So some lips that aren't going to have the outline for their lips as defined. It's okay to shade the top of the male lips because sometimes they're going to fall into shadow, and that's fine. But really, you don't want to make it as appear as though they're wearing lipstick, unless they are, of course. Which some dude characters are wearing lipstick, like the Joker, maybe for example. You're just going to be going ahead and defining some of the anatomy a little bit more on a dude. You might add in some actual shading around the muzzle of the mouth, at least in the lower areas there. So let's do another male mouth. Again, starting with the opening, drawing the lip outline around the opening. And then that's about it. Once again, if this is a dude's mouth, I'm going to give him a nice amount of shading underneath it to define those forms, and thus get that masculine appearance to come across a bit more clearly. If you want a slightly puckered looking mouth for the ladies, I'll do something that looks a bit more like this. Top lip might be raised a little bit. We'll give this particular mouth some really nice full lips. And you can see, they look nice and juicy. These days, I kind of draw female lips, though, that aren't quite as full. They do look a little bit more realistic if they're not as, pumped up. It's completely fine if they are. That's just a stylistic decision, and it looks good, no doubt about it. We'll draw one more front view mouth down the bottom here. Let's draw a really angry one, actually. One that's kind of snarling. right in the corners of the mouth there. The bottom lips. Now that we've got the opening defined, and we'll also add in the teeth. And again, we'll get a good look at how to define those teeth without making them look too defined, because otherwise it looks too weird. You don't want your teeth to look weird. They look scary. They look like monster teeth if you define every single one of them. And it's a big mistake. You know, most people do define their teeth if they don't know what they're doing, and it can lead to an outcome that's undesirable. Okay, so let's say that this is a man's mouth. So we'll add in some additional definition. That's looking pretty good. So that's the front of the mouth. Let's do some side view examples. You know, you're still going to be working with the opening of the mouth, but you're also going to be defining the outline of it as well. So the outline of the lips, at least at the front of them. So from the side, the lips kind of look like this. Okay, we're drawing some nice female lips here again. And there's another way that you can approach it as well. Rather than defining the opening of the mouth first, you can define the outline. And I'll show you that in just a moment, actually. Because it's probably more the way that I would draw the lips from the side. For example, when you're drawing the head side on and it gets to the point where you're laying down the lips, sometimes what I'll do is just something that looks like this. And then once I've got the outline for the lips defined, I'll go ahead and then add in the opening afterwards. And that can work just as well. It ultimately comes down to going with the method or the approach that is most comfortable for you. If initially you find that what I'm showing you just doesn't quite feel right, if it's not working for you, definitely try to mix it up and try to tweak it, modify it so that it is enjoyable. Usually what you'll find is that, especially on women, the top lip will hang over the top of the bottom lip. It's not always the case, and it doesn't always have to be the case. Usually if, you know, you're drawing the mouth like this, where you've got basically an underbite for your character, that looks more apish, and so it's more appropriate for like a butch-looking masculine dude. Okay, so you might end up with something like this. Even though it's already a little confusing as to what we're looking at, as far as whether it's a man's mouth or a woman's mouth, but to make it less confusing, let's just take out some of the outline. And that'll certainly make it more obvious that what we're looking at is a male mouth. Let's actually do some expressions for the mouth in this view. We could draw out an open mouth that's screaming. That might be fun to look at. So from this angle, the opening of the mouth would stretch all the way down. This might be the lips here. And you can see how the mouth opening is now pulled forward. Again, that's because it's stretching, right? Like elastic as the jaw moves open. So you'll be able to see the teeth. We could draw out an open smile. So a smile where the teeth are being revealed. Okay, starting with the opening and then dropping the bottom lip down. And we've got the lips. I'm only doing a bunch of lipped lady looking mouths because once again, it gives us a good look at how the shape of the lips would be defined in these different views. So there's our side views. They're looking pretty solid, I think. Let's do some male mouths from the side just to mix things up a bit. You'll notice here that I'm going to invert the teeth and increase that underbite with this example. This is probably way too exaggerated actually, but and we are getting into a little bit of facial expressions here. Once you know how to draw the basic mouth from the side and from the front, it becomes fairly easy. There's not a whole lot that really has to go in to overcomplicate it, honestly. So then, in order to make it interesting, we can start expressing the mouth, expressing emotions through some of these facial features. The last thing I'll go over is just a bit of a description of the geometry that we're dealing with in the side view. What the side view offers us is a really good look at the mouth muzzle, the actual form around the mouth as it sits onto the head. And then, of course, you've got the lips. And remember, the lips, they're going to angle inward back into the face toward the mouth opening. Always think of it in that way, because when you start to move the head and you start to rotate it, it gives you an idea for what planes are going to be hidden and what planes are going to be more revealed in any given perspective. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and that you got a ton of value out of it. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you'd like to delve deeper into this topic, the full class for how to draw mouths is available on howtodrawcomics.net and Skillshare, which you can access via the links in the description below. It's going to show you how to draw the human mouth in the standard points of view, as well as the more advanced dynamic perspectives of the mouth. All right, well, that's it from me today. Until next time, keep drawing.